Hello, this is Trent Prager, your librarian. I'm going to show you how to find information about a psychological assessment. Mental Measurements Yearbook and Tests in Print is a go-to source for test reviews and information about commercial tests. Both the yearbook and Tests in Print are books that come out every few years. In each new volume, the new or revised tests that have come out since the previous volume are reviewed and/or described. This means that the previous volumes are still used quite often since a new edition doesn't replace them. Instead of searching for which gigantic volume you need to use for the test you're looking for, the contents of all editions of the two books are inside Mental Measurements Yearbook and Tests in Print database. It's useful to note that the books and the database are compiled and published by the Burroughs Center for Testing at the University of Nebraska. To get to the database, start at the St. Thomas Library's site, click on the Databases tab, select the letter M, and click on the database title. Note that only 4 people at a time can use Mental Measurements Yearbook and Tests in Print due to our subscription terms. This means you may be turned away temporarily if there are other people in the database. Once you're in, search for your assessment. I'm going to use the Hare Psychopathy Checklist-R 2nd edition, or PCLR 2nd edition. My search was a bit too specific, so I'm going to remove the additional terms and just get my basic assessment name. I notice that there are versions for screening and for youth, which is already valuable to know. I'm going to look at the PCLR 2nd edition. Clicking on the title gives me a lot of the basic data, including purpose, population, price, and comments. Comments show that the normative sample was expanded in this 2nd edition to include a more diverse sample. I also have a link to the publisher's website, so I can head there to find their description. You'll want to take a look at your test instrument, but you probably don't have hundreds of dollars to spend on testing manuals. Well, the GSBP department has an office that houses copies of answer sheets and manuals for several commonly used instruments. Stop in and ask if you can check for your test. If they do not have the materials, you'll have to piece together what's on the assessment through journal articles. Back at the Mental Measurements Yearbook and Tests in Print database, scrolling down, I see 2 reviews of the test instrument. The first is by Sean Atchison and the second is by D. Joe Olney. While it may be hard to read with the poor formatting, there's great info in these reviews. I find an explanation for why the 2nd edition was developed, explanations of measures of reliability and validity, as well as descriptions of when to use the instrument. Since this is the 2nd edition of the assessment, it would be useful to know where it originally came from. Going back to my results list, I'm going to check out the 1st edition that appears to have been published around 1990 to 1991. Looking at one of the earlier reviews, I see that there are references to an article by the instrument creator, Hare, about developing a scale for assessment of psychopathy and validity and reliability of the psychopathy checklist. These would be useful articles to find, since these articles are the precursor to the PCL being accepted as a valid and reliable instrument. To find an article, select the title, copy it, and, going back to the library's homepage, paste the title into the Click Search box and search. You may be led to the article that we have in our databases, or you may run into what seems like a dead end, like I have here. However, when I check the box next to Include Items at Other Libraries, I find a record for the article and can request it via interlibrary loan. Since the test reviews in Mental Measurements Yearbook aren't journal articles or book chapters, you may wonder how to cite them in APA style. Good news! The Burroughs Center for Testing has created a guide to citing their test reviews. Perform a web search for Burroughs Center for Testing or go to burroughs.org. Once on their site, hover over Test Reviews and Information and click on How to Cite Burroughs Publications. Use their Click Here link and you will find their citation document. At the top of each page, it says which volume of the mental measurements you are citing. One of the test reviews that I'm going to cite is from volume 16. The first page of the citing document is for volume 19 and after, so I'll go to the next page that has 9th to the 18th. It gives the general form for a citation using the print yearbook, but we use the aggregator EBSCO. So, it says to create a citation using the same format as the print volume without adding in the page numbers. There's an example of a final citation below. All the citation information you need comes from the Mental Measurements database, including reviewer, editors, and year. Besides test reviews, you may want to find other articles that use or talk about the test instrument you have selected. To do this, PsycInfo is your best bet. Begin with a search of the name of your instrument and change where you're searching to Test and Measure from the drop-down list. You can also select Peer Review if desired. Clicking the Abstract Details link on an article, I can see that my instrument is one of the tests and measures used or talked about in this article. To find older articles that may have more to do with the development of the instrument, I can choose to have my search results sorted by oldest first. If I want to find newer articles, I can search most recent first, or change my sorting back to relevance and search for articles in the last 10 years. If you are looking for your instrument based on specific factors, you can modify your search. While the database may jump you back to the basic search, it can be easier to add more terms on the advanced search screen. If I'm looking for more on the generalizability of this assessment for all populations, I could use the term race, or women, or African American or black, or bias. All of these searches could yield useful results. Also, depending on the popularity of your test instrument, you may also want to search for the name of it in the title of the document. With Mental Measurements Yearbook and Tests in Print, in addition to PsycInfo, you should be able to get a clear picture of the uses, utility, and limitations of your psychological assessment instrument. With any questions, contact me at tjbrader@stthomas.edu.